see everyone. Yeah, my quick background, physician MBA by education, was at management consulting with Boston Consulting Group, working across pharma and medtech for many years, and then joined the pharma side. I was at Novartis Pharma, and then went to Amgen, where I was head of corporate strategy, global marketing lead for Amgen's main drug, Enbrel, and then I founded and led what we call the Amgen Digital Health, one of the early digitally focused business units within big pharma medtech. Well before, today you have lots of chief digital officers and the like, and we were relatively early looking at that. So we did things like put Bluetooth into our main drug delivery device, got the second ever connected combination product approved by FDA. We built regulated algorithms that we commercialized through regulatory bodies that were basically then getting embedded into EMRs, patient registries, medical devices, with the objective of identifying patients that were misdiagnosed, undiagnosed, or undertreated, and doing that at scale via algorithms. And then I came to the telemedicine side. I was chief commercial officer at Doctor on Demand, one of the country's leading telemedicine providers. And last 4.5 years, we've been working on Bright Insight, where I'm the CEO and co-founder. So great to be a part of the conversation. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you, Kal. And I know Bright Insight and PA have spoken and worked together a bit. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what Bright Insight provides for companies specifically.
Yeah, so at Bright Insight, we specifically work with major global biopharma and medtech companies. And what we are is we're the infrastructure on top of which pharma and medtech companies build their regulated digital solutions. So the first thing we did is put in place a quality management system that governs all the way to the highest level of intended use from a risk perspective, right? So basically, our platform lets you practice medicine on our infrastructure. I was hearing, some examples as I was dialing in here that I think would apply. So as an example, our customers are building things like connected drug delivery devices, wearables, software's medical device algorithms, which could be things like personalized drug dosing algorithms, a wearable plus an algorithm that's looking for adverse events, and the like, apps, et cetera, right? So our customers are building those things. And what we do is that our customers focus on the innovation. So creating that app or creating that algorithm. And then, through our APIs, we integrate into that solution. So our customers don't then have to worry about how do you manage the privacy, security, regulatory, and quality requirements of getting that data off the patient or the device to the backend cloud for processing, and then getting that insight back. So we're that infrastructure that manages that whole data layer from the edge to the cloud and back in a fully regulatory compliant way. We're available, I think, in 64 countries now, and kind of spreading around the world as trying to cover all the markets that pharma and medtech want to bring their innovation to.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. And I'm curious, in general, how big is this market opportunity? Are you just scratching the surface with your clients? And also related to that, what's the breakdown or split between medtech and biopharma? And maybe even what are the opportunities in both? Is medtech maybe a little more advanced due to their technology capabilities versus pharma?
Yeah, great questions. So our view is that we're in the early days of a massive market transformation here. By and large, all pharma and medtech products today, as incredibly innovative as they are quote unquote dumb, right? Meaning they're not connected. They're rarely personalized in terms of things like dosing or, adjusting, your ongoing course of therapy to kind of what you need for that stage in your disease and disease progression, et cetera, right? And so what digitization is doing is going to offer pharma and medtech companies to massively transform that and do what digital has done to every other aspect of our lives, right? Which is bring massive customization and personalization, massively improved experiences, and what I would call better outcomes, right, in other parts of your life. There's the same analogy on the clinical and medical side of things. So, as an example, like identifying patients that are not on the right therapy. That's a huge opportunity that you can do with digital. Personalized drug dosing, right? As I'm sure everybody here knows, less than half of folks, take all their medicine as prescribed, right? And so there's lots of issues with lack of adherence. But it's one thing, to be reminded every morning or every day, every week, hey, take your medicine. It's another thing to get that personalized reminder that says, hey, congratulations, you just took your medicine on time 8 weeks in a row, and you get, incentivized and rewarded for that, versus, hey, and we noticed you didn't take medicine X this morning, right? And give you that nudge or reminder, or let you, say, oh shoot, I forgot, remind me this evening after dinner, whatever it is, right? And so that personalization opportunity, will massively improve there. And then you have, have customers working on things like how to figure out if somebody even, is appropriate for a therapy or not, right? And you get into things like oncology and other areas, figuring that out up front is not just a market share decision for a pharma company, but that's massive clinical opportunities, right? So we're in the early days of these types of use cases, and our view is over the next 5 to 10 years, all therapeutic areas in multifaceted ways are going to go down this journey. Today we're working with our customers in diabetes, obesity, respiratory, oncology, neurology, ophthalmology, hematology, right? So we're already working in a lot of different disease areas, and you can tell by that list that within there you're covering everything from rare diseases through massive primary care illnesses, like diabetes. So we think this is going to be a broad-based transformation. It's going to happen both on the pharma and the med tech side. To your question, Paul, there, I think what we're seeing that's interesting is, on the one hand, med tech is ahead on digital historically, right? Because they've had physical devices. A lot of these physical devices have had software. Some of them have been connected. So on the one hand, they have a starting point that's a bit ahead today than where pharma is. But we're actually seeing pharma move faster than med tech on average right now. And I think it's for a couple of reasons. One is they can move faster because they actually don't have the legacy infrastructure holding them back. MedTech is very much stuck in a sunk cost mindset right now, and they keep pouring good money into historical infrastructure. That's just not the future of how to do things. So they want to create their own silos still, of infrastructure, of data. And so I think, those MedTech companies that can get out of that mindset, I think will have a chance to really win here. And on the pharma side, folks, really haven't had legacy infrastructure and beliefs. And so, the companies that are taking the right approach actually are moving quite fast. And we've had multiple customers launch, regulated digital products in 6 months to a year, right? I mean, that is lightning speed for a regulated industry, right? And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the coming years. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of the most advanced digital companies are actually, meaning regulated digital product companies are actually pharma and not necessarily med tech.
Yeah. And as we know, digital therapeutics is a very hot growth area and providing a lot of value to patients. And so I think you highlighted interesting about how you work with your client companies. And so maybe you could expand a little bit on the process once you make that connection, how you work with them to identify what really their needs are, and then the digital health approach or solution or platform, however you want to describe it, that is deployed to meet their needs. And also kind of a corollary is, to what extent are you consulting them? And of course, this is a little biased because I work with PA Consulting. Right. How is that complementary? Strategic consulting, looking at the market overall for, the market needs and opportunities and challenges, and how to mesh those two together in a way that provides the best solution for the market and for the client.
Yeah. So as you know, Paul, from your experience, this is a very dynamic, fast-changing, uncertain space, which makes it, creates huge opportunity, but also challenges, right? And so I think strategic thinking and nimbleness and the ability to be flexible and pivot as you execute are all critical here, which means having strong consulting or people with strong consulting skills supporting that journey is very important. So for our customers, typically we get engaged somewhere between they have an idea of what they want to do, right? The earliest, where they still need to do a lot of shaping of that idea. Sometimes that might be too early for us. When they say, hey guys, you guys have some more work to do on really defining exactly what that solution is you want to build. We might be able to help you, but PA or other consultants or internally, you guys need to do, some more work to really define the solution a bit more. Then we, so if someone's done that, and, typically we can get involved where they have, high level requirements of a solution, and then work with them to really get to detail level requirements. And we're, building that software under the quality management system, so fully regulated software for them, all the way through to, on top of our platform, all the way through to supporting them through the regulatory processes. So we'll do meetings with FDA, Japanese FDA, notified bodies in Europe, et cetera, but we'll help shepherd them through that. And then we support them through the full life cycle of the product. So after they commercialize that product, right, as we're talking about software as a medical device, right? Digital, regulated digital. So just like with a pharma or a physical device that's regulated, you need to do device vigilance. You got to monitor your users to make sure it's working as intended. You got to be able to handle complaints. So, formal complaint handling. You obviously have to ensure software works as people's phones change and operating systems change and so forth. So we kind of then stay with them for that full end-to-end journey into data and analytics and insights, so they can, bring those back full circle into product development. So, it ends up being a very, not just technical relationship to your point, but a very consultative one as well. And oftentimes we're, to your point, working, we're definitely working with a pretty sizable group at the client, but that could also include, other consulting that they've brought in to really help them along that end-to-end digital journey.
Yeah, thank you. Changing gears a little bit, I know we're running short on time here. So this is something that I'm always curious about when we look at, obviously, traditional healthcare and pharma looks at, treating disease, curing disease, but this prevention, the prevention aspect is sort of relegated to other players, adjacent industries, or just, let's say Peloton or, Fitbit. And obviously Fitbit integrates a little bit with healthcare services nowadays. So, to what extent do you see consumer digital health and even non-health specific technology or digital solutions that consumers are using, integrating into what you're doing with your clients? And is that part of the opportunity for them? And this is like a forward-looking question. What is the future of what you're doing, and also what you see in general as far as digital health, both regulated and non-regulated? And because it is, like you pointed out, it is a very, there's a lot happening right now, a lot of things changing. There's a lot of disruption happening. And, just the mere fact that pharma and med tech are doing digital health, which is great, there may be a whole nother big tsunami of things happening where they can be disrupted. We look at the merger of Doctor on Demand with Grand Rounds, right? I think it was.
Yeah.
Telehealth or Teladoc and Livongo. And so we're seeing, some tectonic shifts that may impact traditional sectors that you're working with. Well, I'll stop there.
Yeah. Look, obviously, I don't have a crystal ball, but I give you some, my opinion on that. And by the way, I was at Doctor on Demand, and I could have never predicted that. Yeah, 5 years ago that we were going to merge with Grand Rounds, right? So it's definitely hard to predict the future here. But so I think we're going to see a lot of parallel tracks, and then eventual mergers and integrations, if you will, in at least the regulated digital health space. So there's just so much opportunity for pharma and medical device companies to digitize their products today that I think they should be heads down driving that, both to improve the performance and the clinical impact of their products and their bottom line business cases. And then I think similarly, the Pelotons of the world, or all the non-medical grade digital approaches that obviously have an impact on people's health, both people who already have that disease as well as those that are pre-disease. I think they'll do their thing. And I think the ones that are smart are going to be collecting the data, so then in the future they can pull out insights from that data, right? So then the question becomes, for example, when I'm on my Peloton and I'm riding my Peloton, and Peloton is, if they've been capturing, obviously with permission, for example, my heart rate, and now can see heart rate variability during my workouts, and over time they figure out, gosh, this signal seems to be predictive of a future issue for somebody, right? But today it's all theoretical. But you think about the amount of data at scale, right, and the explosion of solutions like Peloton, to stick with your example, or Fitbit, et cetera, right? The data is getting there, right? So now the question, of course, becomes: is the data medical grade, right? And I would say for a lot of these solutions, they're not, right? I mean, all Fitbit, Apple Watch, et cetera, they're all improving the underlying ability to collect medical grade data. But that's the two things they need to do, is be able to improve the data quality to be medical grade, and then actually collect it, turn that into insight, and then go and basically say, okay, well, now we can go and kind of reverse engineer the medical claim, if you will. And then I think you start seeing a merging of these types of things. But we're ways off, but there's so much opportunity for real clinical impact in each of the sort of, swimming lanes today.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I like the parallel development characterization of what's happening, with the caveat that regulated industries need to be cognizant of the threats, right? And that there could be big players emerging, or mergers and acquisitions that happen that may disrupt some of their business model. When we think about digital therapeutic, I always love the example of the digital therapeutic for birth control, Natural Cycles out of Sweden, as effective as the pill. So, I think it's obviously not huge yet, but, those kind of examples, you multiply those, and we need to keep those in mind. So, well, thank you, Kal. Yeah, sorry. Last word real quick, if you like.
No, I think that's great, guys. Just a tremendous interview. Thank you, Paul, for putting that together. And Kal, and Don Jones, thank you for making the introduction to Kal. Don Jones, the digital health guru in San Diego as well. So thank you both. A virtual round of applause from everyone watching from around the world. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, and apologies for the delay getting on. Great to be here. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Paul. Good to see you.